Imagine this. A former superstar executive from General Motors, once seen as the golden future of Detroit, suddenly appears on national television, standing in an FBI sting operation involving a suitcase of cocaine. That man was John DeLorean, and behind that shocking moment was a dream he refused to let die. A stainless steel sports car that looked like it came from another timeline. A car built on ambition, chaos, political gambles, engineering miracles, and a streak of pure rebellion. Before the DeLorean DMC 12 became the time machine you know from Back to the Future, its real origin story was far stranger than anything Hollywood ever wrote. Today, we count down 20 weird facts that reveal how one man tried to bend destiny and accidentally created a legend. Stay with me. Number 20. The FBI sting that shattered DeLorean. John DeLorean's downfall did not begin with the moment he walked into that hotel room full of FBI agents. It began long before the cameras rolled. When the sting operation finally went down, the world saw a shocking tableau. A once legendary executive standing in front of a suitcase of cocaine, stunned, defiant, and aware that his empire was collapsing. But what most people never realized is that the entire operation had been engineered as a high-pressure trap designed to corner him at his weakest. DeLorean's company was running out of money, production problems were piling up, and investors were disappearing. In that desperate moment, he stepped into a situation that would change not only his life, but the fate of the DMC 12 forever. Number 19. Financial investigations began long before the sting. Long before the sting operation, federal investigators had already been circling DeLorean's company. Financial irregularities, missing funds, and risky cash movements triggered scrutiny from multiple agencies. The authorities believed the company was using desperate tactics to stay alive. What made this so strange is that the investigation had nothing to do with drugs at all. It was about survival. DeLorean was juggling loans, shifting assets, and fighting to keep the Belfast factory running. By the time the FBI moved in with the staged cocaine deal, the financial foundation of the company was already cracking. Number 18. The company's cash collapse happened rapidly. By the time the scandal exploded, the company's finances were already collapsing from within. DeLorean had expected strong early sales to stabilize cash flow, but reality struck hard. Production delays stacked up, supplier costs ballooned, and the Belfast factory burned through money faster than investors could replace it. Every month felt like a race against bankruptcy. What shocked many insiders was how quickly the financial freefall happened. One moment, the company looked ambitious, even daring. The next moment, it was barely able to keep the lights on. When the crisis reached its peak, DeLorean was left searching for any lifeline that could buy him time. Number 17. A sudden price jump-crushed early demand. One of the biggest blows to the company was the sudden jump in the DMC 12's retail price. Originally intended to be an affordable stainless steel sports car, the price increased dramatically as development costs spiraled out of control. By the time the car reached showrooms, it was far more expensive than comparable competitors with better performance. Buyers who once lined up out of curiosity found themselves walking away when they saw the final price tag. The jump in cost turned what was meant to be an accessible dream into a luxury gamble that many were unwilling to take. Number 16. The impossible 12,000 car survival target. From the very beginning, the survival of the company depended on reaching a nearly impossible sales target, at least 12,000 cars per year. That number was tied directly to the financial structure of the Belfast factory and the government funding behind it. Without hitting that annual threshold, the company would lose stability almost instantly. Despite the excitement surrounding the launch, demand never reached the level needed to support long-term operations. The business model was built on a foundation that allowed no room for slow growth, and that rigid threshold ultimately became one of the biggest reasons the company could not survive. Number 15. First-year sales reached only half the expectation. The first year of sales delivered a painful reality check. Instead of the strong demand DeLorean had predicted, actual sales reached only about half of the expected volume. Early reviews were mixed, and many buyers hesitated once word spread about inconsistent build quality and underwhelming performance. Even though the stainless steel design drew enormous curiosity, curiosity alone could not convert into enough purchases. The disappointing first-year numbers robbed the company of the momentum it desperately needed to stabilize operations. Number 14. Belfast's workforce struggled with build quality. Quality control quickly became one of the company's most urgent challenges. The Belfast workforce, though eager and hardworking, had little experience building complex sports cars. The factory struggled with panel alignment, electrical issues, and inconsistent finishing. Many cars required rework before they could leave the line, slowing production even further. These problems were not due to lack of effort, but rather the reality of launching an entirely new car company from scratch in a region without a history of automotive manufacturing. Number 13. Production began. Nearly 1 year behind schedule. Even before quality issues emerged, the project was already behind schedule. The first DMC 12 rolled out nearly 1 full year later than originally planned. Engineering revisions, supplier delays, and the complexity of building a brand new manufacturing operation all contributed to the slowdown. This delay drained crucial funding and caused the company to miss the ideal launch window. By the time production finally began, the financial cushion that should have carried the company through its early months had already been stretched thin. Number 12. The Belfast factory was fully government funded. The construction of the Belfast factory was one of the most unusual chapters in automotive history. The British government funded the entire project in hopes of reducing unemployment and easing political tensions in Northern Ireland. For DeLorean, this was a lifeline, a massive modern facility financed without the burden of traditional corporate debt. But while the factory represented opportunity, it also came with limitations. Government oversight, political pressure, and rigid financial conditions created an environment where the company had little room to maneuver. The location was chosen for political stability, not manufacturing efficiency, and that decision would shape every step of the car's production. Number 11. The car became a political project, not just a product. What many people never realized is that the DeLorean project was more than a business venture. It became a political symbol. The DMC-12 was tied to economic relief programs, community development initiatives, and efforts to stabilize a region struggling with violence and division. This meant the car carried expectations far beyond simply being a successful product. There were hopes it would create unity, jobs, and confidence in the future of Northern Ireland. But those heavy expectations also added pressure the company was never equipped to handle. In many ways, the project was asked to shoulder responsibilities no car manufacturer could realistically bear. Number 10. DeLorean flew, constantly to keep the factory alive. To keep the factory running, John DeLorean spent an exhausting amount of time flying back and forth between the United States and Belfast. He dealt with engineering setbacks, supplier disputes, labor issues, and constant financial negotiation. His charisma and determination held the operation together, but the pace was unsustainable. Each trip revealed a new obstacle, and each obstacle drained more of the company's already limited resources. The constant travel symbolized the deeper truth. The company was struggling to function without his direct presence, and no organization can survive long when its founder is forced to personally plug every leak. Number 9. The PRV V6 was a budget-driven compromise. The choice of the PRV V6 engine was not a bold engineering decision, but a financial compromise. DeLorean had originally envisioned a powertrain that matched the futuristic look of the car, but the budget simply could not support development of a bespoke engine. The PRV, built through a partnership between Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo, became the most viable option. Reliable yet modest in output, it was far from the performance level DeLorean hoped to deliver. The selection reflected the harsh reality of building a new car company. dreams often have to bend to the limits of available resources. Number 8. Performance. Fell short of the car's futuristic look. Performance quickly became one of the car's most controversial talking points. The striking stainless steel body suggested speed and futuristic capability, but the real driving experience did not match the promise. Acceleration was modest, and reviewers frequently noted that the DMC 12 lacked the power expected from a sports car in its price range. This disconnect between appearance and performance frustrated early customers and created a wave of criticism that the company struggled to counter. The car's bold exterior raised expectations that the mechanical package simply could not meet. Number 7. Lotus provided the backbone-style chassis. To keep development on track, DeLorean turned to Lotus for assistance, and the result was a chassis layout inspired by the backbone structure used in the Lotus Esprit. This design was lightweight, simple, and relatively affordable to produce, making it attractive for a startup automaker. However, the adaptation was far from seamless. Engineers had to modify the layout to fit the stainless steel body panels and the PRV engine, creating a complex blend of ideas from two very different automotive philosophies. The final structure worked, but it carried compromises that reflected the unusual circumstances of the project. Number 6. Stainless steel was chosen to cut paint costs. One of the most recognizable elements of the DMC 12 was its stainless steel body, but this iconic choice was rooted in practicality rather than pure style. DeLorean wanted a finish that would never rust and would not require expensive paint processes. Stainless steel provided that solution. It was durable, distinctive, and eliminated the need for a traditional paint shop, which saved a significant portion of startup costs. But the material came with challenges. It was heavy, difficult to shape, and unforgiving of manufacturing mistakes. Any dent or scratch meant replacing an entire panel. What looked futuristic on the outside hid the reality of a high-risk, high-cost production decision underneath. Number 5. The Project First carried the name DeLorean Safety Vehicle. Before the car carried the name DMC 12, it went by a very different project title, the DeLorean Safety Vehicle. This reflected John DeLorean's long-standing fascination with automotive safety innovations. He envisioned a sports car that would stand out not only for its looks, but also for its protection features. The early prototypes focused heavily on crash structures, visibility, and overall durability. As the design evolved, performance and styling took center stage, but the original emphasis on safety remained a defining part of the car's identity. Even its stainless steel panels echoed that early mission. Number 4. Giugiaro created the car's iconic wedge design. The car's distinctive shape came from one of the most influential designers of the 20th century, Giorgetto Giugiaro. Known for his clean geometric lines, Giugiaro crafted a silhouette that perfectly matched the bold vision DeLorean wanted to project. The wedge profile, the flat surfaces, and the sharp angles gave the car an instantly recognizable presence. Giugiaro's design balanced elegance with simplicity, making the DMC 12 look advanced without relying on unnecessary complexity. His contribution became one of the strongest and most enduring elements of the project, surviving even after the company itself collapsed. Number 3. DeLorean planned his own car company. While still at GM. Long before the DMC 12 took shape, John DeLorean had already begun imagining a car company with his own name on the badge. Even while holding a powerful position at General Motors, he grew increasingly frustrated with the slow pace of innovation and the corporate limitations that restricted bold ideas. He believed the automotive world needed something fresher, more daring, and more forward-thinking than what the big manufacturers were offering. These early ambitions quietly evolved into a blueprint for independence. The idea of building a car that reflected his personal philosophy took root long before the public ever heard of the DeLorean Motor Company. Number 2. He left GM at the peak of his power to go independent. When John DeLorean walked away from General Motors, he did so at the peak of his career. He was a rising star, widely expected to become the next major leader within the company. His departure shocked the industry. Instead of continuing on a path paved with prestige, he chose the uncertainty of striking out on his own. It was a move driven by conviction rather than comfort. Leaving such a powerful position meant sacrificing stability, influence, and the resources that came with a giant corporation. But DeLorean believed that true innovation required freedom, even if the cost was enormous. Number 1. Back to the Future turned the DMC-12 into a cultural legend. Although the company collapsed, the DMC-12 achieved something no one could have predicted. When filmmakers selected it as the time machine for Back to the Future, the car gained a second life that soared far beyond its commercial failure. The stainless steel body, the gull-wing doors, and the futuristic silhouette suddenly became part of global pop culture. The car that once struggled on showroom floors became a symbol of imagination and possibility. In the end, the DeLorean did what few automobiles ever achieve. It transcended its own history. It stopped being just a car and became a legend. When you look at the DeLorean story as a whole, it feels less like the rise and fall of a car company and more like the biography of a dream that refused to behave. John DeLorean wanted freedom, innovation, and a machine that carried a message bigger than metal and bolts. In many ways, he achieved that. The company may not have survived, but the idea did. The DMC-12 became a reminder that ambition can outlive failure, and that sometimes the world remembers not the outcome, but the courage it took to try. The stainless steel panels that once reflected factory lights now reflect something else entirely. Nostalgia, imagination, and the belief that even flawed creations can become timeless. The DeLorean did not change the automotive market. It changed culture. And that might be the most extraordinary victory of all. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the origins of the DeLorean DMC-12, let me know in the comments. Tell me, was this car a masterpiece ahead of its time, or a dream too heavy for one man to carry? Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next story behind cinema's most iconic machines. And if you have a car you want us to explore next, drop it below. Your suggestion might be the next countdown.